Who is this? Hello?
I am Death.
What do you want?
You and your friend will show me the understanding of features of fiction in the story At the Pit Rivers. And the winner will get to keep his soul.
What friend?
Look at Randy Orton slithering.
Watch out, watch out, watch out! Oh my God! RKO! RKO out of nowhere! RKO out of nowhere! Orton's got the cover! Oh my God! He's done it! Randy Orton has done it! Destiny to
You humans bore me. Now let the games begin.
Okay, so what do you think? What are the important features of At the Pit Rivers?
So I think the narration, clearly, and character development and setting and the theme is quite important throughout the story. So I think all of those,
Basically all of them.
all of those play a big part in the
in the story.
Yeah.
So let's start with narration, should we? Okay, so so for the narration, we can clearly see the narrator is he's a teenager, or at least he's really young. We can see that by the language he's using and by his style. Like he uses around I don't know 10 ands in one paragraph. He just keeps on saying and also he likes to make a lot of like side comments, don't you think? Like he just switches between subjects and makes comments and kind of judgments, and yeah.
And his language is very informal, like all over the place. He says vlogs, he says hell, he says lots of things that's just kind of like fancy, just kind of like cruise, and gives you
an idea, like he's
of the character's views.
And also characterization. It's a really big one too.
Yeah, characterization is very big. From the beginning, honestly, he starts he is very smart. He's quite like different as a teenagers go. Like he knows about history, goes to museums, he enjoys poetry, so he's kind of a mature, smart guy. But his perception on love is kind of
the opposite. Yeah. And he seems to be the type of person like kind of more quiet, and he really likes to make himself stand out from the others. He likes to judge others. In the first paragraph, he does say like, who goes to the museum except him? He just says like, a few blokes, a few art students, and then him. And that really goes to show that and also when he talks about the people in his class as well, he talks about how his friends, they have a really immature view on love and sex, and how they don't really understand, but he thinks he does way more,
but he still doesn't really. And he also says like he thinks that girls and boys have a way of pairing up, like they have to be beautiful and another beautiful girl and another beautiful guy, another young girl and another young guy, and it has to be like that. And it says that that's how love is through life. And so
he's kind of using like his experience from school, clearly, because also we can also use what we see in school is like usually like the good looking people get together, and usually they're from in the same grade and same age, and he uses that, he sees that, and he uses that he thinks that's the truth for everything and for everyone.
Yeah. And also on page 25 he says I'm not all that good looking myself, only about a B+, which means like he judges girls quite a lot. He has like, I guess, a rating system, and he like judges girls fine on their appearance and like who like he thinks they will go with, because that's how like
he judges himself pretty high as well.
Yeah, so then later in the story there's a huge shift on page
I believe on the second to last or last page, when he starts to understand, and he sees because he follows the couples he sees in the museum a lot each time he sees them, and we can see a really big shift when he starts to understand that he doesn't really know anything about
here
love.
On page 28 he says, so I ignored them, except that I couldn't quite. I kept sneaking a look every now and then, and the more I did, the more I felt kind of friendly towards them. I liked them. So he's changing his perspective, and he kind of like, he understands that if these people really understand and love each other, then it's fine. It's not disgusting. It's not wrong.
Yeah. Like you said on the previous page, at first he found it disgusting and he ran away. But now you can see a big difference when he even says like, I felt kind of friendly towards them. I liked them, and which was a bit weird considering they didn't even know who I was. So another really important thing in the story is the setting. So already in the first sentence, it goes like, they've got this museum in Oxford called the Pitt Rivers, and so immediately when we hear Oxford, we think it's like that should be a quality museum. It has to be yeah.
Because Oxford has a quality college, and it's really like quite a rich like town in city in England. So yeah, we would think that it would be a quality establishment.
When he describes what the people that go there, and like he says it right here, the odd art student, a few kids gulping at the shrunken heads, one or two serious looking blokes. And also when he says he says I went into the Pitt Rivers, and I was up on the first floor in a favorite corner of mine among the arrowheads. And then that's when he sees the couples again. But the important part is that he likes to go to the corner, which is kind of like, what do you think about that? It's kind of like he has
a habit of going to that setting, and it's kind of like it's his
to-go
place to kind of think. And
what do you think? Like when you go to a corner, it would make sense that he likes to
take himself out of the scene and
observe, yes, and like stay right outside of it. But and which just really goes to show when he talks about the couples and how he knew them, but they didn't even know he existed because he followed them, but they
how
didn't
he's
really
learning
know
so
him.
much from people that don't talk to him. He's just learning this new way, this new perception of love, this what it really is.
And
so that kind of brings us to our theme, which is we think it's love changes people. And so it changes the girl throughout the story. At first she has this marvelous expression, I think on page
very beginning.
In the very beginning,
when he sees her
she says that she glowed and she has a marvelous look, and he keeps saying that she's not beautiful, but just it's her expression. And then that
like she still wasn't pretty, but she had the most beautiful expression I've ever seen in my life. She glowed. That's the only way I can put it. She sat there with her hands in her lap, watching the door and radiating away, so that in a peculiar fashion it made you feel good just to look at her, a bit like you were joining in how she felt. And it just shows like she wasn't pretty, but a love just completely changed her.
That's the influence of the guy that she loves. That's the influence onto her, the expression she has, and the way she feels, and the way she makes everyone around her feel.
And right here as well, and there was she, and I've said she wasn't pretty, not at all, but she had this marvelous look about her, and she was years and years younger than her boyfriend. And yes, and it was because of him I realized that she had that look, which just points that it is indeed because of love that she looks different, and she has a different feeling and expression to her.
Later, almost by the end on page 31, this is how it kind of like takes a toll and turns things around. It says, I hope I don't ever see anyone look so unhappy again. I truly hope that, because that's the moment where they break up, and that's how love changes her, and she just, from being so like marvelous and having this beautiful expression, she just completely turns upside down.
And even by watching the couples, the narrator changes. He says right here, I suppose you could say I had learned something else in the Pitt Rivers by accident, which means he did indeed really change, and which kind of also foreshadows learning our theory. Our theory that we made, time travel theory.
There's a time paradox theory. It's kind of complicated, but we're not sure about this, but there's no evidence that proves it wrong, so we're just gonna go along.
And so basically we believe that the old man is the narrator. Just that the old man traveled back in time, because at the end we know that we can see that it's the old man that is kind of like he was breaking up with the girl, and so we thought that maybe he really like regretted it later, and he wished he hadn't made the mistake, but maybe he didn't understand love.
Yeah, I think
Like-
that's so. Like, this is where I think the theory is kind of right, because he went back in time to see himself and learn from his older self, and kind of like learn this perception of love, so that he wouldn't make the mistake when he's older.
Yeah, so he would stay with her, and
Yeah.
so he would travel back in time to learn about love. And what else? Really important thing that also proves is when he was in the museum, he was writing a poem about an old man sitting on a bench in a park and getting into conversation with a boy. That's page 30. And yeah, someone around my age, and they swap opinions and observations, and it's all dialogue, this poem, like a long conversation, and it's not till the end you realize they're the same person.
Yeah.
Which really shows like it's an old person and a young person, and they're kind of just learning and
Learning
yeah.
from each other. The young one is learning from all this wisdom that the old one has, so that, and then you realize that they're the same person. That, like, yeah, it just kind of proves our time travel theory.
Time travel. You humans are absurd. Neither of you deserve to keep your soul. But I have to keep my word. Aiden, leave the room. Casper, you should die.
Okay, wait. Just pretend like you're really cool. Just look into the camera like.